achieved.
So, I've already kind of talked about how I'm not a fan of the champion versus champion fights, unless it's under the correct scenario. And as far as I'm concerned, that scenario is a champion in a lower weight class, has defended his title at least 3 times, 4 or 5 times, and appears to have cleared the division of contenders, or at least needs a challenge, and opts to go up in weight class to challenge for the title. I like that. That's George St. Pierre versus Anderson Silva, John Bones Jones versus Cain Velasquez back in the day. Those are the type of fights I like. This scenario we just saw, and it seems like the UFC is throwing these champion versus champion fights together to try and draw big numbers, and it just doesn't work for me. The fight we just saw with TJ Dillashaw, the 135-pound champion, coming down to the flyweight division to challenge Henry Cejudo at the 125-pound weight class just didn't make sense to me. You know, I would have been all for DJ if he held onto the title, going up to 135 and challenging. In fact, I was really hoping that would happen. It doesn't, and now we get this fight, and what happens is TJ gets knocked out in definitive fashion. He loses the title, and now, does that make him a lame duck champion 135 pounds? You know, when I was looking at the main event for this card and the litany of potential contenders in the bantamweight division, has that belt lost a little bit of its significance, or at least momentarily taken a step back, because their champion went down and got knocked out in a 125-pound weight class by a smaller man in a division not known for its finishing skills, or at least deemed to be not nearly as capable of finishing opponents? I don't like it. You know, had Cejudo gone up and challenged and won, we have a new champion at 135 pounds. As he goes up and loses, it's a title defense for TJ Dillashaw. I don't think it was a good idea. I do like from the perspective that it could have saved the 125-pound division, or at least prolonged its life in the UFC. If that's the case, fantastic. Please give Joseph Benavidez a title shot. Let him have another shot at the title. But yeah, I just don't like it. And you know, Cyborg versus Nunes, that's a good fight. I enjoyed that one because it made sense. Nunes going up, Cyborg's been dominant, Nunes has been dominant. Let's see what happens. But again, that was a true champion versus champion fight under the proper scenario. This was not. But hey, they're trying to make money. It's a business. I get that much. Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson. And on this episode of the show, we are breaking the upcoming UFC Fight Night 144, which will take place on February 2nd from Fortaleza, Brazil, featuring 6 main card fights. I will give you all 6 of my main card predictions on this episode of the show. All of my preliminary picks, as per usual, are available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. Again, a lot of people post, where are your prelim picks? They're on the website. I typed them up. You know, multiple forms of media. It's important to diversify. So please check them out. They're on my website. And speaking of my site, this is the second show since I've overhauled it. It's supposed to be more mobile friendly for tablets and phones. Again, I'm working out some kinks. Please, in the comments, if you have any concerns or suggestions or see anything, let me know what you think. I'm doing my best to make it work. I like the look of it, but again, we're still trying to figure some things out. Now, I've tried to diversify, posting a little more content on there. I am looking for content writers. It doesn't pay squat, but if you're interested in writing about the MMA because you enjoy it, did I say the MMA? Whatever. If you're interested in writing about the UFC because you enjoy it, by all means, contact me and we'll see what we can come up with. Also, as you might have noticed, I will have Super Bowl picks. Last year, I posted the Eagles and the over, cashed huge. I'll be posting on my site closer to Sunday what I'm predicting for the Super Bowl. We'll hopefully try to make some cash. I've also been posting NHL picks. In fact, last night I posted a $50 play that cashed in for $600. I think it was $660 when all was said and done. So pretty solid. You know, my other picks have been close. I had one that I went 3 or 4 legs. The Flyers gave up a goal the second left in regulation to blow the lead and then lost in overtime. That sucked, but either way, it's just something on the side. I know some of you guys are fans that like to bet on other sports, so I'm offering what I can. You can also follow me on Twitter at KO_predictions. And, of course, the bet packs will be for sale. I'll get them back up and running in this show. $15, get you a complete breakdown of the entire card from a betting perspective. I talk about fantasy picks, parlays, props, betting scenarios, all kinds of things. I top value plays. I rank my confidence picks, all of those things. Again, I put all the research in, and we're looking to get hot here to start the year. I didn't post it last show because, hey, I needed a break from getting the website set up, so I just didn't have time. But certainly check them out in the bet shop. And on that note, we've got 6 main card predictions. Let's get to that first one. The opening fight of the night takes place in the women's strawweight division as former Invicta champion Livinha Souza, 12 wins and 1 loss, takes on the debuting Sarah Frota, undefeated at 8-0. Now, Souza had an impressive UFC debut, submitting Alex Chambers in just 81 seconds. She has won 3 consecutive bouts since her only career loss, which cost her the Invicta title against Angela Hill. Now, for Frota, she's undefeated. First round knockout in the Contender Series. She went 3-0 in 2018, made her pro debut in 2016. Physically, she's 1 inch taller. She's the older fighter by 4 years against compared to Souza, and she's got a long reach, 69-inch reach, which is, she's got some very long arms. Now, as I said, Frota's debuting. She has 5 wins by submission, 2 wins by TKO, and 2 decision victories. Now, it's worth noting 6 of her 7 finishes have come inside the opening round. Now, when you look at her record, her last 2 fights have been against the same girl. She fought that girl on the regional scene, then fought her in the Contenders series. That girl, good fighter, 8 wins, 1 loss prior to fighting Frota, now 8-3. Prior to that, her 3 opponents had a combined record of 8-6. Not great. I believe only one of them was over 500, so not awesome, but not terrible. She is a black belt, and a very capable black belt of that. Her last opponent is a jiu-jitsu black belt as well, and a judo brown belt, and Frota was able to submit her in one of the fights. Now, she can do work on the mat, not surprisingly, and she can do work on the feet. She's got power in her hands, especially her left hand. She likes to step in with a 1-2 and throw. She hurt her opponent with that left, with a straight left. Again, she loses some of her technical skill when she opens up. She throws a lot of barrages and presses forward. She will close distance, which makes her hittable. Now, if she gets on the inside, look for her to initiate some grappling exchanges. She has a nice body lock takedown. She'll work an outside leg trip if possible, and she has good submission defense from the top position, which we've seen her use that and then go to work offensively. But she will also pull guard, and she's very active from that position. She'll use rubber guard. She's rotating her hips constantly. She picked up a triangle off her back in one of her more recent appearances. She was taken down in one of the other fights, again, caught that triangle. So, again, very capable on the ground. Now, on the flip side, she was slowing down in the first round of that last fight and pulled guard and attacked with submissions off her back. Cardio could be a big issue for her, and if she's put in some bad spots, she could fade, and that's definitely concerning going into her UFC debut. Now, for Souza, she has better experience both in quantity and quality. She has 8 submission wins overall, 2 wins by knockout, and 2 decisions. Her only loss can still a 5-round decision. She has 8 first-round finishes, but she's fought to the 5th round once and lost that fight. She's fought to the 4th round and got a finish, which was a submission win in that. And she's 4-1 outside of the opening round, which is worth noting. It's debuting fighter with a lot of first-round wins on her record. Souza, judo and jiu-jitsu black belt, and she's in a better spot here. Coming into this fight, she debuted in her last fight, coming off more than a year layoff, and she's got that behind her. I like what she's looking at moving forward. When she strikes, she has a lot of movement. She's got a fairly, active right hand, but she likes to throw and move forward. She wants to close that gap and set up her grappling. She throws a very nice low single. She'll kind of use a sweeping trip in there as well and dives on that single and keeps chaining things together until she gets it down. Against Chambers, she moved right into mount, went for that guillotine attempt and set up the finish shortly thereafter. From top position, she has a smothering top game with good transitions. She will look for the finish. Doesn't seem to be in love with her striking. She recognizes it's a means to an end to set up her grappling, which is good. Now, for Frota, she can't pull guard here. Despite having submitted a black belt off her back, she does not want Souza in top position. And she has to be either vertical or on top herself. I really like to fade fighters with minimal experience who are especially when they're debuting and they haven't gone beyond the first round a lot, and that's what Frota looks at here. Souza has a better gas tank. It's not perfect. She has a bigger window for success. Frota likes to move straight forward, and that's going to open her up to Souza's single leg takedown attempts. Souza will wear her down, hold top position, eventually getting a spot for a submission, and my prediction is Livinha Souza to defeat Sarah Frota by submission. Fight number 2 in the main card goes all the way up to the light heavyweight division as Johnny Walker, 13-3-0, fighting at home in Brazil, takes on El Blanco, Justin Ledet, 9 wins, 1 loss, and a no contest. Now, Ledet is coming off his first career defeat. He is 3-1 in the UFC. He had a split. He had a split decision loss in his final fight at heavyweight before losing to Alexander Rakic in his last fight, which was his return to light heavyweight. For Walker, he made a very successful debut, stopped Khalil Roundtree in the first round. Very impressive. I picked Walker to win that fight. Took a lot of flack for it. I was very happy with that outcome. He has won 7 consecutive, including a contender's win over Henrique da Silva, Frankenstein, the former fighter in the UFC, who had 6 fights in the octagon. So a couple of nice wins there for Walker. Physically, Walker's very tall for the division, but he's only 1 inch taller than Ledet, who's a former heavyweight. He'll have a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's the younger fighter by 4 years. Now, one thing to note, which I find very interesting, is Walker is from Brazil, but he actually moved to England to train. And the reason I'm noting this is because when a young fighter like Walker goes away from home and then comes back and returns to fight at home, there's a lot of distractions. There's family, there's friends, they want tickets, they want to see you, they want to eat with you, they want to take you out, they want to party, and you have to wonder, for a young guy like that, is that temptation going to be an issue? Is that going to prevent him from focusing 100% coming into this fight? Very interesting scenario there. I'll talk about another one with Ledet momentarily. When you look at Walker's record, 12 wins by knockout, 2 submission wins, just a single win by decision. He's been knocked out twice, submitted once. He has 12 first-round wins. He is 3-2 beyond the opening frame. I like analyzing those stats. They're very important. Now, in his debut against Roundtree, he had a massive height and reach advantage. And he did look to use his range game in the early goings, but he really didn't throw a lot of offense. A lot of fakes, a lot of feints from the outside. When he attacks, he tends to move forward. He fights in close, which negates any reach advantage he might have. He likes to use the clinch with knees and elbows, including the elbows he stopped Roundtree with very impressively on the inside. He's got some power in his right hand, but again, his offense carries him forward. He fights a little bit loose, unorthodox, throws a lot of different techniques. Not a lot of setup, which is concerning, especially if you face a very capable striker. On the outside, look for him to use a lot of kicks, head kick, low kick, he'll throw a wheel kick. He attempted an axe kick in the last fight. He's got some pop in those kicks, but again, they're not being set up properly, which means they have limited effect. On the Contenders bout, he threw a lot of jumping knees with really not a lot of impact, and they take energy out of you, and they set you up for possible takedown attempts or getting cracked Andrei Arlovsky style. Now, as far as his grappling chops, we saw him defend a takedown with a guillotine on the Contenders fight. He hit a switch on a nice takedown attempt. He also got taken out of a slip. So it's not his forte. It's not his big thing to go to the ground, but that's something certainly he could go to if the situation presents itself. On the flip side, as far as the negative concern, when he fought Da Silva, despite winning the opening 2 rounds, he looked extremely tired in the 3rd round. Fortunately for him, so was Da Silva, and Walker was way ahead. And that is a concern, especially as you get deeper into the UFC's roster of competition. Now, looking at Justin Ledet, just 2 wins by knockout, 5 submission victories, 2-1 on the scorecards. He has 5 first-round wins, 4-1 outside of the first round. He's 2-1 in the UFC outside of the first round as well, so he's got a lot of experience there. And he's a former pro boxer. That's why he lacks depth to his records. He took some time away as a pro boxer, and he's coming back to the UFC because he feels that's where it's at now. Now, as I mentioned, in his last fight, he moved to the light heavyweight division, moved back there from earlier in his career, hadn't fought there in a while, and it cost him some of his advantages. He clearly lost the speed advantage, he didn't have the movement advantage he had at the heavyweight division. His cardio wasn't a factor. Even the technical edge that he possessed against the heavier men wasn't there. And you add that in, he's fighting a monster in Alexander Rakic. I'm saying it probably incorrectly. Either way, very impressive fighter there, and Ledet ran into a buzzsaw. He didn't look drained, and again, I said he fought prior at light heavyweight, but the story about him, one thing that's interesting, it was a fight in Germany, so you have that issue as well. He lost all of his luggage going into that fight, which included all of his preparatory meals, meal prep that he had put in to getting ready to fight at light heavyweight. And when you're making a cut for the first time in a long time, or for the first time period, there's a science that goes into it. There's a lot of issues and a lot of preparation that goes into it, and the distraction of not having everything he'd planned had to be an issue. And I don't want to take anything from Rakic, and he dominated Ledet in that fight, but you wonder if that played a little bit of a role in his performance. In that fight, we saw Ledet getting blasted with low kicks, which he's had issues with previously, and that's something we could see Walker go to. He struggled with the pressure and the pace of Rakic, which is something I don't know if Walker's going to emphasize here. We saw Ledet shoot for a takedown, wound up on his back, couldn't get off his back, got stuck in the cage. Bad scenarios, pretty much start to finish for Justin. Now, when he's doing things effectively, when he's working well, he likes to counter with a quick 1-2. He's got a good jab, and he'll mix it up with a lead left hook. He throws a lot of fakes and switches between that jab and that left hook, which makes it difficult for fighters to anticipate what's coming. Lots of lateral movement, which could be used here to negate the forward pressure of Walker, and he counters as fighters come in. Again, if Walker moves forward, look for Ledet to counter. We will possibly see Ledet look to grapple. He is a boxer, but he knows he's got a good submission game. He will take fighters down. Even if he can't get a submission, it could serve to tire Walker out defending takedowns, especially if he actually completes them. Now, at the same time, he needs to watch for those big elbows and knees as he moves forward. I think Ledet's going to get some of his advantages back to that he had at heavyweight. He should be the quicker man, the more technical fighter, and the superior cardio. Those are all huge things. Walker has power, but his lack of setup is going to allow Ledet to see a lot of those strikes coming and avoid them or counter them. Walker is coming off a very short win against an undersized opponent, but it looked damn impressive. His stock is extremely high, probably higher than it should be, even though I picked him. Ledet's coming off his first career loss in a debut in the division, looked out of his depth in that fight. His stock is probably the lowest point he's ever been. that's a great spot for us if we're back in Ledet. Walker, as I said, stocks high, Ledet stocks low. I like Ledet here, despite fighting in Brazil. I like his demeanor. I like the way he, he's just his casual nature. I think he'll do well in Brazil. Look for Ledet to use that jab and that left hook, counter Walker as he moves forward, mix in takedowns, be the more active fighter early, probably get some groundwork. I think he pulls away late if we get that far. He will have to survive a shitstorm in the first round, but I think he fights smart here, and my prediction is Justin Ledet to defeat Johnny Walker by TKO. Fight number 3 of the main card is a very interesting bout in the lightweight division as Charles do Bronx Oliveira, 24-8-0 with 1 no contest, takes on David Teymur of Sweden with a current record of 8 wins and 1 loss. Now, Teymur has been incredibly impressive, undefeated since his pro debut, 5-0 in the UFC, picking up some very noteworthy victories. Oliveira, he's been in the UFC since 2010. He has the most submissions of any fighter in the history of the promotion. He's fought 22 times inside the octagon. He's fought 3 current or former champions. He has 3 wins in a row. And he's 4-1 since moving back to the division. The guy is impressive. He's put up good stats. Physically, he's 1 inch taller. He'll have a 1 inch reach advantage. They actually are the same age. It's also worth noting that Teymur is a southpaw, and Oliveira is 3-0 when fighting in Brazil. Now, what we have here is what you would traditionally look at and say is a grappler versus a striker competition. Kind of. Teymur has focused his attack primarily on his striking. He's picked up a couple of takedowns, but again, he wants to stay vertical. Oliveira is the more diverse fighter overall, as he can strike. And because, again, we talk about this constantly, he's more than willing to go to the ground. He will throw high-risk maneuvers and move forward unabated because he knows if he gets taken down, he's cool with that, and he'll go to work there. He has 17 wins by submission overall. 12 of his 13 UFC victories have come by submission, and he has taken down 11 of his last 13 opponents. Those are some damn impressive stats. Overall, he is 11-4 inside the octagon when he has taken down his opponent at least once. Conversely, when he hasn't landed a takedown, just 2-4. And you look at those 2 wins, one was recent when he caught Clay Guida off a takedown attempt, submitted him, and the first one was his professional debut against Darren Elkins, where he got taken down and then caught the submission off his back. So you see the key to fighting Oliveira is stay vertical, not surprisingly. And for Teymur, he's got an 82% takedown defense. Lando Venata took him down once. Drakkar Klose took him down twice. In both those fights, he got up fairly quickly. His opponents overall a combined 3 for 17 on takedown attempts. He's hard to keep down as well. Now, Klose took him down with a power double, but couldn't hold him down, as I said. Showed some good takedown defense, and I like what Teymur does. He explodes out of those takedown attempts. As soon as his opponent gets their hands on him, he's looking to create separation. He's not going to absorb the takedown and then get out of it. He's getting out of it ASAP. And on the flip side, he's actually scored 3 takedowns in his 6 fights. But again, that's not his area of expertise, which to me that's good because that means he's not going to be inclined to shoot on Oliveira in a panic situation, like a Clay Guida, like a Darren Elkins, like these guys who are going to want to go to their instincts and drive forward if they get in trouble. Teymur's not going to do that. He's going to try and circle out and reset himself and see what he can do. Now, as I said, Oliveira is a super opportunistic grappler. He likes to capitalize when his opponents try to wrestle him. Good counter submissions fighter. He fights very upright, not always looking to level change, but he wants to engage and move forward into the clinch, set up that body lock, and drag his opponent to the ground, set up any way of getting his hands on you and go to work, rotate to their back, anything. Once he gets in close, he transitions together. He's got long limbs, he can grab submissions out of just about anywhere, and usually once he gets it down, it's pretty much over. We have seen guys like Paul Feld or Anthony Pettis have success with him on the mat, but again, it's a dangerous proposition. If Oliveira can't get the sub, he can be broken, he can be hurt, and he's been beaten up on the mat and lost fights as a result of it. And when you look at some of the guys that have beat him, Frankie Edgar and Donald Cerrone being 2 noteworthy fighters in prolonged fights, discredit the Max Holloway matchup, not because anything Max did, just the way that played out as far as analyzing things. They both avoided takedowns and landed big shots to get the victory. Felder did get the victory after he survived. He landed big shots and hurt Oliveira. Teymur is very capable of doing that. He throws exceptionally hard low kicks. He batters his opponent's inside lead leg. He throws hard single kicks to the body. Power back leg kick is open to the body, which with the switch opposite stance fighters, that's going to be a huge weapon. He needs to be very mindful of leaving those kicks out there too far, as they could be picked up and they could become something that Oliveira jumps on to score a takedown. But I love the way Teymur fights at range. He's incredibly measured. He throws hard, doesn't overcommit. He forces his opponent to shoot from a long way outside, which is not what Oliveira wants to be doing. And Teymur sticks to a game plan. He frustrated Drakkar Klose by not engaging when he wanted him to. So much Klose had to go and whine to the referee and force Teymur to engage him. Teymur's a capable counter striker. He's got a good left hand, good timing and accuracy, stiff right jab. Again, not overwhelming volume, but he's hard to hit, which makes that volume more significant. That is a concern against a guy like Oliveira, who will free flow and move forward. If Teymur doesn't really blow him out of the barn with his impact of his strikes. Could Oliveira steal a decision as a result? That's certainly a possibility. I think Oliveira is going to struggle here to close the distance without eating big shots. Teymur will remain on the outside, again measured, handle that pressure well. If Oliveira can get him down and control him, different story, but that's not going to be easy. Teymur needs to stay at range, land hard shots, take away Oliveira's base with those low kicks, and frustrate him. I think he doesn't overcommit. I think he just beats Oliveira up. We're going to see some second half fight butt flopping from Charles Oliveira as he attempts to drag the fight to the mat. And my prediction is David Teymur to defeat Charles Oliveira by decision. Moving to the UFC's welterweight division, former middleweight and welterweight title challenger and 8th ranked fighter in the division, Demian Maia, 25-9-0, takes on cyborg Lyman Good with a current record of 20 wins, 4 losses, and 1 no contest. Now, Maia is definitely in the twilight of his career. He's never won a UFC title, but he's been on the cusp. He's been close. He's been denied. He has lost 3 consecutive fights, including his title fight loss. He had a split decision before the title fight loss, split decision win over Jorge Masvidal, which some people felt showed the cracks in his arsenal. For Lyman Good, he's coming off a spectacular knockout victory over Ben Saunders. It preceded over a year layoff. He's only lost 1 fight in his last 8, which was a split decision against a fellow Brazilian, and he has finished his last 5 victories. Physically, Maia 1 inch taller. He'll have a 2-inch reach advantage. Actually, a 2-inch reach advantage for Good, and Good is the younger man by 8 years. And again, you look at Maia, he's 41 years old. He's had 2 title shots. He's lost them both. What keeps driving him forward? That's a great question. You wonder if fighting in Brazil is what he's looking forward to here. Now, Maia, as far as as far as his takedowns, he has 100% focus on takedowns and grappling, setting up his submissions. But over his last 3 fights, he has attempted 49 takedowns and completed 0, and that's ultimately why he's lost 3 consecutive fights. Conversely, in a 7-fight win streak that led to the title shot, he completed 19 takedowns. And those numbers would be higher, but he's so damn effective at submitting guys once he gets on the mat. So the big question is here, can he get Lyman Good down? And can he get him down before he gasses out if he can't finish him? Can he get him down enough? Maia, again, just very similar to Oliveira. He shoots, he dives on legs, he chains takedown attempts together, he'll clinch, latch on, rotate his opponent's back. Once he gets his hands on you, you are in danger. You need to get out of there. He has a smothering top game, capable of finishing with just 1 successful takedown. He's also capable of grinding out decisions. We've seen that over 5 rounds against Ryan LaFleur. He's also a better than expected striker, but he can't rely on it. Usually he falls back on it when he gets tired or when he's looking to be aggressive and has his opponent on the run, as was the case against Colby Covington. He's got a decent left hand. He was cracking Colby with that. He bloodied him up, but again, it's still not his primary focus. He wants to close that gap, set up his grappling. Again, cardio has been a major issue for the Brazilian. If he can't win or bank rounds early, he is certainly going to be in trouble in the latter stages of the fight. Now, Good, when he fought Dos Santos, one of his most recent split decision loss, he got taken down, but he got up very quickly. He showed good balance on takedown attempts. Again, Dos Santos is not Demian Maia, but he's still a capable grappler. I didn't like the way Good struggled creating separation. In fact, Dos Santos rotated to his back, and if Maia does that, you are in serious trouble. Good throws with big power, and that's his key to win here. Steps in and swings. He's got a good left jab. He has a nice uppercut as well. He's got power in his right hand. He's got some heavy leg kicks. He needs to deploy all of those in a manner that's going to keep Maia on at the end of them without letting him close the distance. He will go high with a head kick as well. I liked his uppercuts that he used against Saunders. He clinched, which could be a mistake here, but he landed those brutal uppercuts and took him out. Clinching against Saunders is no picnic, and he successfully did it. Again, not overwhelming volume from Good, but he will open up in close. Doesn't bring the type of pressure that could wear Maia down we've seen other guys use, which could be a mistake. Maia, again, has faced a trio of very strong wrestle boxers, all at or near the top of the division, all stylistically bad matchups for him. We've seen him have success against lower-level wrestlers, guys like Rick Story, or very capable grapplers, guys like Gunnar Nelson, but he just couldn't get it going in those fights. Lyman really hasn't faced a dedicated grappler in the UFC, and he's a striker. He's primarily a striker. And how is he going to fare in the early grappling exchanges here against a guy who's got overwhelming experience and technical advantages? Even though Maia couldn't take down Woodley and couldn't take down Covington and couldn't take down Cameron Usman, they still had to work exceptionally hard to stay vertical and to get away from him and to scoot back up when it was even close. If Maia gets in close, look for him to chain submission attempts or takedown attempts together here and get Good on the mat. Unless Lyman can stop him, he doesn't have the type of volume to overcome Maia's grappling pressure. Unless Maia grasses hard and Lyman's able to stop him, hurt him in the later stages and finish him. Again, Maia is very durable, but again, he's getting up there. I think this is a great spot to pick Demian Maia. He's lost 3 in a row against top-level competition. He's taking a step back. He's fighting at home in Brazil. I think he rebounds here, and my prediction is Demian Maia to defeat Lyman Good by submission, most likely rear naked choke. but maybe possibly a guillotine. Moving now to the co-main event of the evening, we've got some more Brazil versus Brazil violence. We are in the UFC's featherweight division as the former champion, one of the greatest featherweight champions of all time. The number 2 ranked fighter, Jose Aldo, 27-4-0, takes on the 5th ranked Renato Moicano with a current record of 12 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. Now this is an absolutely huge fight for Aldo. Is he back in contention after his win over Jeremy Stephens, which I correctly predicted, one of the few I actually get right? Or was it not a fluke, but just a win over a fighter, a good fighter, but a great fighter? You know, when you look at the guys he's lost to in recent times, you know, 2 losses to Max Holloway and getting knocked out by Conor McGregor. That's nothing to sneeze at. Those are top-ranked guys, and McGregor, if he hits you clean like that, you are in serious trouble. Now, for Moicano, his only career loss came against another elite-level fighter in Brian Ortega. And in that fight, he looked good early, faded, and got finished. He is 5-1 in the UFC, and he's beaten Jeremy Stephens, he's beaten Cub Swanson, and he's beaten Calvin Kattar, and he's looked good doing it. Now, this could be another one of those changing of the guard fights. We just saw Chad Mendes come back from a long layoff, beat Miles Jury, oh, I'm back, and then he gets sparked by Alexander Volkanovski, a next-level young contender on the rise. Jose Aldo comes back, beats Jeremy Stephens. Now he's facing a rising contender in Renato Moicano. Does the same thing happen? Great question. Physically, Moicano 4 inches taller, he'll have a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's the younger fighter by 3 years. Aldo's not old, but he's been through some wars, so they could be adding up. Now, over his career, the key to beating Aldo has been to push the pace, and push a pace that he can't maintain. Holloway did it twice, and that was a success there. I'm going to throw the McGregor fight out. I'm not even going to make reference to it because it was just not a fluke, but just a one-off situation that it's hard to really play into in any analytical breakdown of this fight. Now, for Moicano, he's fought incredibly smart fights, very strategically based fights. He throws different strategies to his opponents depending on what they do well. He fought Ortega in the pocket and really looked to mix it up and try and pressure him into avoiding the grappling exchanges. He fought Jeremy Stephens at distance to avoid Stephens' bombs. He fought Calvin Kattar with a heavy leg kick-based striking attack to kind of short-circuit Kattar's willingness to strike, to box in close range. Now, at the same time, against Stephens and against Tuhugov, who just got suspended for a year, we did see him go to split decisions. He's come a long way, though, since those fights, picked up his volume. He landed 109 strikes against Ortega, 116 against Kattar, so he's capable of going over the century mark as far as his output is concerned. Now, the question is, how does he fight Aldo? Does he push the pace over 3 rounds and look to outwork him? Does he try and wrestle and grapple him to try and wear him down? Does he sit outside a range to try and limit the damage that Aldo can do to him and pot shot him? Is he quick enough to do that? Is he technically sound enough to do that? That's a great question. We're going to find that out, but let's try and figure that out before that happens. As far as his weapons, he's got a stiff left jab. He dropped Cub Swanson with it. Good ground and pound in that fight. Mounted him, submitted him. Aldo has shown it can take a lot to get him out of there, so I don't anticipate one jab putting him down, but hey, I could be wrong. With Moicano, I'm not impressed by his intensity. Now, he did look better against Cub. Maybe he's coming out of it, coming into his own. That's quite possible. He fights at a measured pace. He does get hit a little bit more than the average guy. 3.45 significant strikes per minute absorbed, but he's over 5 significant strikes landed. So that's a good exchange there. If you stand in range against Aldo, you best be quicker and you best be more powerful than him. So that tells me Moicano might fight on the outside at first and then get right in, push, pressure him, and then back right up. Keep varying his attack. Aldo, against Max Holloway in the second fight, he fought more measured, but he had trouble reaching Max. And Holloway presented just that perfect storm. Better timing, superior cardio, extremely good distance management, and power. All those things combined together made it difficult for Aldo to overcome him in either one of those fights. Now, Edgar had the cardio and speed advantage over Aldo, but not the reach. That cost him. Mendes had good power, but he didn't have the reach or the pace to push Aldo and overcome him in those fights. And that's why Aldo thrived. Aldo against Stephens looked physically better. He fought at range, and that's what he wants to do. That's where he looked good, but he got hurt by Stephens, and he was getting drawn into a brawl. He needs to remain technical and not allow that damage to pile up. He landed that brutal body shot that just crushed Stephens. It was a thing of beauty, and it hurt to watch. It hurt to rewatch prepping for this prediction. It stopped him. He looked like the faster man, the more accurate man, and that's what he needs to be. One thing we've seen Aldo get away from is those low kicks. He still works them, but they're not the devastating thing they used to be, and again, that could come with age. They're still impactful, just not enough to be a difference maker like they used to be. When you look at Aldo, he stopped Stephens, but it wasn't that impressive of a performance as far as a complete performance. Again, he's getting busted up, he was getting hurt and taking some damage. He was close to getting knocked out. I thought at one point if Stephens could have connected with a big bomb. Again, ultimately, I picked him in that fight, and he came out with a victory. The last time he looked really good in a matchup was 2016 against Frankie Edgar. That's 3 years ago. the key to Aldo's success has been that he could hurt you and hit you, and you couldn't hit him because he was either faster than you or he was able to fight at a distance you couldn't deal with. That isn't the case here. Aldo, he's been dominant, but it's been the gap's been closing. Competitive fight against Chad Mendes, knocked out by McGregor, good fight against Edgar, twice against Max he gets beat, hurt by Jeremy Stephens before finishing him. Again, you see the gap in competition closing with him. Moicano has shown he has power and he can push a decent pace. Again, avenue for victory for Aldo is if he is the faster, more accurate fighter. That's how Aldo wins. I think Moicano is going to have success with his volume and just being the more active fighter overall and being the more durable fighter. I think Moicano's going to pressure him here. He's going to outwork him. He's going to hurt him. And my prediction is Renato Moicano to defeat Jose Aldo. I wouldn't be shocked to see him finish him, but my prediction is Moicano by decision. And in the main event of the evening, we have a very fantastic rematch as the number 3 ranked Raphael Assuncao, 27-5-0, fighting out of Brazil, taking on the 4th ranked Marlon Moraes with a current record of 21 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. Also a Brazilian-based fighter. So, two more talented Brazilians mixing up. I like this thing. Not always going to be, foreigner against local. I like this situation. This is a rematch from UFC 212 in mid-2017. Assuncao won that by split decision. It was Moraes' debut coming out of WSOF as their long-reigning champion. Moraes, since that fight, won a split decision against John Dodson and then knocked out Aljamain Sterling and Jimmy Rivera in 2 impressive performances. He has faced a who's who of competition since coming to the UFC, and the loss against Assuncao, his only loss in 17 career fights, or 17 fights, not total career, but at least that big stretch. For Assuncao, he has won 4 in a row. He only has 1 loss in his last 12, and it's against TJ Dillashaw, who he also beat earlier in his career. He's beaten guys like Sterling, like TJ, like Brian Caraway, like Pedro Munoz. Another very impressive run. These 2 guys are on the cusp of a title shot. Assuncao's been there for a while. Moraes has built himself back up since losing to Assuncao. Just a fantastic fight. Physically, Moraes 1 inch taller, he'll have a 1 inch reach advantage, and he's the younger man by 6 years. Now, in their first fight, Moraes had the edge by 1 significant strike, 44-43 overall. Nobody landed takedowns, both trying a couple takedowns. Actually, going back to the striking, Per round, Moraes had the 1 more strike in the first round. Rounds 2 and 3 were equal. So it was a very, very closely contested fight. They traded leg kicks early in that matchup. Moraes appeared to be more aggressive, but then, and Assuncao, he likes to counter, but he actually was more assertive in the opening round than he normally is, taking the center of the cage on multiple occasions and kind of pressing forward. When you looked at them exchanging, Moraes looked like the faster man. He was using a lot of feints to pull out Assuncao's offense. Assuncao was the first man to shoot for a takedown, which Moraes stuffed with relative ease. But we did see Raphael land a big right hand late in the first round that hurt Moraes, stumbled him. He didn't really push forward and engage off of it, and the round came to an end. But I would say it won Assuncao a close round as the most impactful offense in a very tight round. Assuncao looked much better in round 2, had more success, and you wonder, Moraes wasn't feinting nearly as much and wasn't getting off like he should have been, like he was in the first round, and you wonder, he was missing more strikes. You wonder if that octagon jitters, that adrenaline dump, okay, I'm in the UFC, round 1's done, and you sit down on the stool and you think about it for a moment, and suddenly you come out round 2 and you're a little flat-footed. Was that the case there? I really think it was. When we went to the third round, and Assuncao, I think, won the second round. When we went to the third round, Assuncao landed a big right hand early that kind of hurt him a little bit, but not too significant. But then he saw Moraes get back to what was, working for him. He was switching stances, he was pushing forward, more feints in the third round, and he finished well, really landing good shots. I thought he did enough. I picked him in that fight. I was wrong. I thought he did enough to edge it out. Ultimately, Assuncao got the nod on the judges barely. And you look at Assuncao and you say, has he improved or changed since? I don't know if he has. He's looked very similar. He's been a very similar fighter for a number of years now. He's an established fighter. And again, when you're winning fights, you don't ultimately change. And I don't anticipate him changing from the rematch too much. For Moraes, he lost that fight, which should encourage growth. And again, it takes the weight off him coming in as an undefeated, or at least on a significant winning streak. And now he's built himself back up, and he's looked very good in his last couple of performances. Lots of pressure in his debut. And again, as I said, he's looked much better moving forward. I would say overall, Moraes is the more impactful striker. He's the faster striker. He's the more diverse striker. I love the way he switches stances, which opens up a lot of opportunities. Again, when you look at what won Assuncao that fight, he landed one big shot at the end of the first round that hurt Moraes and probably gave Assuncao that round. Moraes, adrenaline dump, looked off in round 2, and Assuncao won the round result. Those two scenarios gave Assuncao the fight. they are not going to exist this time around. Assuncao showed he can win with speed. Moraes showed he can win this fight with speed and feints and pressure. That's the key here. Assuncao's counter game isn't ideal against a faster striker that's aggressive and disguises his offense well. Moraes, I think he's going to learn from his first fight. He's going to land the more impactful strikes. He's going to switch stances up. Watch for that high kick when he switches stances. And my prediction is Marlon Moraes to defeat Raphael Assuncao by knockout and go on to get himself a shot at the UFC's bantamweight title. So those are my 6 main card predictions for UFC Fight Night 144. All of my preliminary picks will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net, so check them out. Again, let me know if any parts of my new website are not working, or if you have any suggestions. I'm always ears. My ears are always open, something like that. The bet pack's available for $15. Make sure you check them out as well. I think there's certainly some betting opportunities here on this card I'm looking forward to cashing in on. Other than that, we've got 9 consecutive weekends with events. We've got a lot of mixed martial arts to break down and look forward to. So, again, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I will talk to you soon.